Chapter 1, The Summoning. The chamber hummed with energy, arcs of blue light crawling across the walls like restless serpents. Hundreds of alien eyes, slitted, multifaceted, glowing, watched the ritual circle burn with power. This was supposed to be a historic moment, the Academy's finest summoning humanity's greatest beast. The announcer, a tall insectoid with chitin polished like obsidian, raised his many arms. Witness, scholars and lords. The apex terror of Earth, summoned before your eyes. The crowd leaned forward. Across galaxies, humans were spoken of in contradictions. Fragile yet unyielding. Laughing while bleeding. Their champion beast, the dragon, was said to be the reason ancient alien fleets had given Earth a wide berth centuries ago. Now, finally, it would be revealed. The circle flared white. The ground shook. A wave of smoke erupted, carrying the scent of ozone and something warm and alive. The air thickened as if the void itself bent in anticipation. Aliens gasped, claws flexed, mandibles clicked in fear. And then, a sneeze. From the center of the glowing runes waddled a tiny creature. It had oversized paws, fur like shadowed velvet, and eyes too big for its head. The beast yawned, gave a faint squeak, and toppled over onto its side. After a dramatic stretch, it curled up and began to nap. The room went silent. That, hissed one scaled aristocrat, is a rodent. No, corrected another, flicking his tendrils, that is, food. The kitten sneezed again, sending a ripple of nervous laughter through the younger cadets. But the elder species, the ones who remembered old wars, stared harder. Something about the casual arrival unsettled them more than claws or fire ever could. A voice broke the silence. Smooth, friendly, inflected with that irritating human casualness. "Careful calling it food," said Captain Elias Ward, stepping forward from the shadows. "On Earth, we tend to get protective." The man looked entirely unremarkable, mid-30s, dark suit, clean smile. He held himself like a diplomat, but his eyes carried the steady weight of someone used to battlefields. The kitten stretched, crawled into the cuff of his boot, and promptly fell asleep again. Elias gave the room a small, almost apologetic smile. "I see you were expecting something larger." A hulking alien warlord, horns sharpened with ceremonial gold, bared his fangs. This was a deception. We prepared for fire and storm, not, he gestured violently at the sleeping furball, this mockery. Elias raised both hands disarmingly. "I promise you, there's no mockery here. What you see is, honest. Earth's nature distilled." The insectoid announcer clattered nervously. "You told us of scaled wings, fire, destruction. Legends of your dragon." "Oh, dragons exist," Elias replied with a light chuckle. "In stories. And if you think stories can't kill, then you've never read the wrong one at the wrong time." He crouched and scratched the kitten's ear. It purred, the soft rumble echoing faintly in the tense chamber. "This little one, though?" "This is a kitten," gasped Spread. The word carried no menace. It sounded almost comical. Elias' grin didn't fade. "They're fragile, tiny, utterly uncooperative. They knock over anything valuable, claw the things you love most, and demand food precisely when you're busy. In short, a nuisance. Unless, of course, you consider what happens when they grow." A silence followed, heavy and uneasy. One of the younger scholars dared to ask, voice trembling through his translator box. "And what do they grow into?" Elias tilted his head, his smile polite, but his eyes sharper than glass. "Predators. Much like humans." The warlord slammed his fist onto the stone railing. Sparks flew. "Your species toys with us. Where is the threat? Where is the dragon?" Elias brushed invisible dust from his sleeve. His calm was infuriating. You expected fire. Claws. Teeth. Something obvious. But humanity rarely plays obvious games. The kitten stirred, blinking up at the massive warlord. Then, without hesitation, it leapt, landing squarely atop the alien's ornate crown. It pawed lazily at the golden spikes, then curled into a ball right there on his head. The chamber erupted in horrified whispers. The warlord froze, caught between fury and fear. No one dared move. Elias only chuckled. See? We tend to climb on top of things we shouldn't, make ourselves comfortable, and dare anyone to move us. Doesn't look like much now, but try to get rid of us. See what happens. His voice carried no overt menace, yet the undertone prickled spines and sent tails twitching. The wise monk-like alien, draped in flowing silver fabric, finally spoke, voice deep and resonant. This is no error. You have shown us not a beast, but a mirror. The creature is insignificant, yet its potential unsettles us. Elias inclined his head respectfully. Exactly. Humans are small, soft, prone to mistakes. And yet, we persist. We grow teeth where no one expects them. We don't conquer with fear alone, we win by making others underestimate us. The kitten is the lesson. The younger cadets exchanged uneasy glances. They had mocked the little creature moments ago, but now every breath it took sounded like a drumbeat of warning. Elias stepped closer to the assembly, his tone conversational, almost playful. You wanted a dragon. But here's the truth, dragons are obvious. Predictable. A kitten, though? He gestured at the dozing animal atop the warlord's head. That's chaos wrapped in innocence. That's what makes it dangerous. The warlord growled, yet dared not move for fear of disturbing the creature. Sweat beaded beneath his scales. Elias clasped his hands behind his back. So, my friends, consider this demonstration not a failure, but a reminder. Humans don't always give you what you expect. Sometimes, we give you what you need to learn. The chamber shifted into murmurs, fear creeping through arrogance. The kitten purred louder, its sound amplified by alien acoustics until it seemed to vibrate through bone. The wise monk bowed his head slightly. Perhaps, the lesson is not about the kitten at all, but about its keeper. Elias' smile thinned, polite as ever. Now you're starting to understand. Chapter 2, Banter Before the Storm. The chamber hadn't relaxed since the kitten's arrival. If anything, the tension had sharpened. The warlord sat rigid with the small ball of fur perched atop his crown, looking as though a single movement might ignite a war. Elias remained the only one at ease. He lounged against the railing, his smile soft, voice casual. Don't worry, she'll come down eventually. Probably after she's clawed your headgear into something more modern. A ripple of nervous laughter ran through the younger cadets. The warlord's jaw tightened. This is humiliation. Not at all, Elias replied, brushing dust from his cuff. It's trust. Cats don't sleep on just anyone. You should feel honored. The monk-like alien inclined his head. Ambassador Ward, is this truly the apex of your world's creatures? Elias chuckled. Oh, no. Earth has plenty scarier things. Bears, sharks, politicians, but we chose this one because it illustrates a point. Predators don't always arrive with teeth bared. Sometimes, they arrive adorable and impossible to remove. The insectoid announcer's antennae twitched. And yet, this kitten is harmless. Harmless? Elias repeated, tilting his head. His tone stayed light, but his eyes carried a glint that unsettled the crowd. Tell that to the furniture in my apartment. Or the curtains. Or the expensive vase that didn't survive her first week. He crouched, addressing the audience as if telling a bedtime story. Imagine a creature that ignores rules. Jumps where it shouldn't. Tests every boundary. Now imagine a whole species of them, grown larger, more inventive, and very determined. That's humanity. The cadets muttered among themselves. They were starting to hear the double meaning in every word. One elder scoffed. A metaphor, nothing more. Your kind uses riddles to mask weakness. Elias gave him a pleasant smile. You're welcome to believe that. It's always more convenient when your opponent underestimates you. The kitten shifted, yawning loudly, then swatted at the warlord's horn before curling back to sleep. The chamber, already on edge, flinched as though a weapon had been unsheathed. Elias clapped his hands once. Since you're curious, let me share something from home. We have a tradition, Thanksgiving. Families gather, eat too much food, and argue about politics. By dessert, someone's throwing mashed potatoes. Now, what's interesting isn't the chaos, it's the fact that everyone still comes back next year. We thrive in disorder. It bonds us. The aliens stared, some bewildered, some disturbed. The monk stroked his chin. You imply that conflict itself strengthens your species. Not just strengthens, Elias said. We're addicted to it. The more impossible the odds, the more stubborn we become. We lose, we adapt, we return harder. That's what makes us inconvenient enemies. The warlord snarled. Inconvenient? You are insects compared to us. Elias didn't flinch. His smile widened politely. Insects? Careful. On Earth, insects outnumber us by the billions. And yet we still manage to squash them. A hiss of amusement escaped the cadets. The warlord's fists clenched, but he held still, kitten still sleeping atop his head like a hostage in fur. Elias spread his hands, voice still light. I'm not here to intimidate you. I'm here to educate. What you summoned isn't failure, it's foreshadowing. You saw a kitten and thought weakness. What you should see is persistence, unpredictability, and the inevitability of claws. The insectoid announcer tapped his forelimbs nervously. Why do you smile as you speak threats? Elias' grin didn't falter. Because they aren't threats. They're facts. Smiling makes them easier to swallow. The monk's eyes glimmered. I sense layers in your words, human. The kitten is not the real lesson, is it? Elias' gaze flicked briefly to the vaulted ceiling, then back. His tone softened, almost conspiratorial. Let's just say, if one kitten unsettles you this much, you should pray you never meet the rest of the litter. A shiver rippled through the assembly. The warlord slammed the railing again, voice booming. You mock us. Where are your dragons? Where are your armies? Elias sighed as though disappointed. You still don't get it. Dragons would have been easy for you. Big, flashy, obvious. But humans? He gestured to himself, then to the tiny creature purring atop the warlord's crown. We're subtle. We slip past defenses while you wait for something louder. We don't arrive with thunder. We arrive with a smile, a handshake, maybe a kitten. And by the time you realize the danger, it's already curled up in your lap. The cadets fell silent. The truth in his tone left little room for mockery. Elias leaned against the railing again, casual as if discussing weather. You know, where I come from, we like baseball. Two teams spend hours trying to outweed each other over a ball, and the crowd argues about it for days. It's not about the ball. It's about strategy, endurance, and patience. That's humanity in a nutshell. We make games out of war, and war out of games. And we don't stop until someone wins. The monk's expression darkened. And you always intend to be the one who wins. Elias' smile sharpened, just enough to show the teeth behind the charm. Wouldn't you? For a long moment, no one spoke. The kitten's steady purring was the only sound, echoing like a clock ticking down. Finally, the insectoid announcer cleared his throat. We summoned a dragon and received something else. I fear what this says about your kind. Elias straightened, tone brisk now, though still friendly. It says exactly what it should. You asked for a monster. You got a hint instead. And if that hint unsettles you this much, imagine what the real test looks like. The monk bowed slightly, as though conceding an invisible game. Perhaps the lesson is not for us to summon, but to prepare. Elias inclined his head respectfully. A wise conclusion. Preparation is survival. Humans just prepare differently. The warlord finally dared to shift, reaching to remove the kitten. The instant his claw touched it, the creature lashed out, claws slicing through his ceremonial cape before landing back on his crown with a defiant chirp. The crowd recoiled. Elias' voice was silk over steel. On Earth, we call that a warning shot. The chamber froze. Elias' smile returned, lighter, charming again. But no need to worry. She's just a baby. Imagine how patient and cooperative the adults are. Laughter rippled nervously. No one missed the cold edge beneath the joke. Elias stroked his chin as though considering an afterthought. Oh, and a word of advice. If you ever hear one of us say, "That's just the beginning," that's when you should really worry. The kitten sneezed again. Somehow, that sound echoed like thunder. Chapter 3, The Mask Slips. The chamber's silence was no longer reverent curiosity. It was fear. The kitten had carved through silk, shredded pride, and curled up atop a crown as if declaring territory. The smallest of Earth's creatures had unsettled giants. But it wasn't the kitten that truly frightened them. It was the human watching. Captain Elias Ward no longer lounged with harmless charm. His posture hadn't changed, his smile still hovered, but there was weight in his words now, weight that pressed against the walls of the chamber like an incoming storm. The warlord snarled. His voice shook more than he wanted. This ends now. Remove the beast, human, or I will. Elias adjusted his cufflinks, unbothered. You could try. But I wouldn't recommend it. The warlord drew himself up to full height, towering over the chamber. His ceremonial spear sparked to life, humming with plasma energy. The audience leaned forward, eager to see the arrogant human cut down. Elias sighed. See, this is where you misunderstand us. You think size decides battles. But the last time a giant came for us, his eyes flicked to the kitten, still grooming itself atop the crown. Well, let's just say the giant didn't walk away. The spear thrummed. The warlord's eyes narrowed. The monk intervened, voice sharp. Restrain yourself, warlord. The lesson is not yet finished. Elias gave him a nod of respect. Wise as ever. Because yes, this is still a lesson. But not about kittens. About humans. The insectoid announcer leaned forward, antennae quivering. Then speak plainly, human. What is the lesson? Elias' smile dimmed. His voice cooled. Never summon something you don't understand. Never invite a predator into your home and expect to control it. The words landed like stones in water, ripples spreading through the chamber. A cadet whispered too loudly, "They're bluffing. The human is alone." Elias' gaze slid to the young one. His voice, though soft, carried easily. Alone? Is that what you think? A shift stirred in the air, barely perceptible, but enough. A pulse, faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat hidden beneath the floor. Some of the more sensitive species froze. They heard it. The monk's expression darkened. You brought more. Elias finally dropped the diplomat's mask. His smile thinned to a razor edge. Of course I did. You think humans walk willingly into a trap without setting one of our own? The warlord roared, raising his spear, but the monk barked sharply, Stop. His eyes locked on Elias. Explain. Elias clasped his hands behind his back. His words were measured now, each syllable deliberate. When you invited me here, you thought you were in control. You summoned a dragon. Instead, you got something smaller. Something you mocked. He gestured casually at the kitten, still preening itself. That mockery bought us time. While you laughed, while you argued, while you underestimated, we moved pieces across the board. The insectoid announcer hissed. Pieces? What pieces? Elias chuckled softly. Ships. Fleets. You ever play chess? It's a game on Earth. One piece distracts you, while another circles behind your king. You're focused on the wrong thread until it's too late. The chamber erupted in voices. Cadets shouted, elders argued, warlords demanded proof. Elias didn't raise his voice, but his calm tone cut through the noise. Right now, as we speak, human fleets are surrounding the outskirts of your proud territories. Not to strike. Not yet. Just to remind you how quickly walls can close. The warlord slammed his spear into the ground, sparks flaring. Lies. Deception. Elias' gaze pinned him in place. Do I look like I need to lie? The kitten meowed, almost perfectly on cue, as if adding punctuation. The monk whispered, voice barely audible. This was never about the dragon. It was bait. Exactly. Elias' voice sharpened. You expected spectacle. Fire and wings. That's not how we fight. Humans don't charge in roaring. We walk in smiling, shaking hands, leaving you convinced you're safe. And then, when you finally look away, he snapped his fingers. We own the board. The chamber's torches flickered as if agreeing with him. The insectoid announcer trembled. Why reveal this now? Why not simply strike? Elias tilted his head. Because victory isn't just winning the fight. It's making sure you understand why you lost. And trust me, you will remember this lesson longer than any battle scar. The warlord bared his teeth. You threaten an empire with nothing but words and a kitten? Elias laughed softly. Words built empires before weapons ever did. And kittens? Well, they grow up. The kitten chose that moment to leap from the warlord's crown onto the railing, tail flicking high with imperious disregard. A trail of shredded fabric marked where it had slept. The audience flinched as though the tiny paws struck like hammers. Elias stroked the creature's back, eyes never leaving the warlord. You still think you're in control. That's adorable. Truly. But you've already lost. The monk, solemn now, bowed his head. The humans laid a trap within the summoning itself. Elias inclined his head politely. Finally, someone gets it. You didn't summon us, we let you. You think you pulled us into your chamber, but you stepped right into ours. The insectoid's limbs twitched frantically. This is impossible. We monitored every signal you thought mattered, Elias interrupted smoothly. That's the beauty of misdirection. While you're staring at the dragon, the kitten walks in the back door. The warlord gripped his spear, fury etched in every line of his face. You speak as though this game is already won. Elias' grin returned, bright, polite, terrifying. Oh, it is. You just haven't realized it yet. The kitten leapt from the railing onto Elias' shoulder, claws gripping the fabric with casual ownership. Its golden eyes gleamed in the torchlight. The chamber stared as if beholding a prophecy. Elias stroked the tiny predator and addressed the assembly. His voice was calm, but each word carried like a blade. You asked for a dragon. You got a kitten. And still, it terrified you. Remember that feeling. Because it wasn't the kitten you should fear. He paused. The silence stretched, heavy and unbroken. It's the people who brought it. The monk closed his eyes, whispering like a prayer. The galaxy has underestimated you. Elias smiled warmly, almost kindly. And that was our plan all along. Chapter 4, The Truth of Humanity. Word of the summoning didn't stay contained in the Academy chamber. The story bled outward, whispered through corridors, transmitted in fragments across comnets. By the time the kitten finished grooming its paw, half the sector already knew the humans had been underestimated, and they wanted everyone to realize it. The council members argued furiously. Voices overlapped, translators sparking under the strain. The warlord pounded the railing, demanding retaliation. The insectoid announcer clicked in panic, muttering about protocols and broken treaties. Only the monk sat in silence, studying Elias as though deciphering a puzzle. Elias stood with his usual calm, stroking the kitten on his shoulder. His tone remained gentle, but the sharpness beneath was unmistakable. You hear the panic outside these walls? That's not fear of claws or fire. That's fear of uncertainty. You don't know what humans will do next. That's the real weapon. The insectoid snapped, your fleets cannot outlast ours. Your species is still young. Elias smiled, almost pitying. Young, yes. But youth comes with advantages. We don't carry the weight of stagnant empires. We're reckless. We adapt. And we never play the same trick twice. The warlord sneered. Reckless gets you killed. Elias met his glare, unblinking. Then explain why we're still here. Silence rippled through the chamber. The monk finally spoke, voice low but steady. Your arrival was no accident. Even this kitten. A calculated distraction. Elias inclined his head. You summoned what you thought would frighten us. Instead, we gave you what would frighten you most. Proof that your assumptions are wrong. The kitten is fragile, small, laughable. Yet you couldn't remove it. You let it dictate the room. That's humanity. We look weak until you realize the damage we've done simply by existing where you didn't want us. The cadets shifted uneasily. Some looked at Elias with anger, others with awe. The warlord spat, and what now, human? Do you claim the galaxy? Elias chuckled softly. No. Claiming is too obvious. What we do is simpler. We settle in. We wait. We grow. One day you'll look around and realize we're everywhere, woven into the cracks of your grand empires. And when that day comes, it'll be too late to push us out. The kitten meowed, as if affirming the point. The monk pressed further. Then your fleet's already at our borders? Not attacking, Elias said calmly. Just present. A reminder that distance is shorter than you think. Humans don't have to win every battle. We just need to be close enough to make you hesitate. The insectoid clattered his mandibles. You admit this openly? You do not even hide your intent? Elias' smile widened, but his eyes stayed cold. Of course I admit it. Half the galaxy already heard rumors by now. Secrets are fragile. Stories? They last longer. And every retelling of tonight will make us bigger than we are. By tomorrow, humans won't just be feared for what we are, but for what you imagine we might be. The cadets whispered, unnerved. The monk whispered something else. A reputation stronger than armies. Exactly, Elias said. Fear of possibility. That's the real dragon you summoned. The warlord's spear hummed dangerously. You play with words while standing in the heart of enemies. Elias didn't blink. His voice softened, becoming almost tender. Enemies? Don't flatter yourselves. Humans don't think in such simple terms. To us, everyone is either family, partner, or future competition. Which you become depends entirely on how wisely you treat us. The chamber froze. The statement wasn't a threat, it was an equation. The monk bowed his head slightly. You've already set the board. We are merely choosing whether to be pawns or allies. Elias stroked the kitten again. Better to be allies. Pawns get sacrificed. The insectoid twitched. This is extortion. No, Elias said softly. This is honesty. Extortion requires lies. I'm only showing you the truth. The kitten leapt from his shoulder to the floor, padding across the chamber. Its tail flicked as it knocked over a golden goblet. The metallic clang echoed like a gong. No one moved to stop it. The simplest act, casual destruction, held the entire room hostage. Elias bent to scoop the animal up. His voice was gentle, almost fatherly. That's humanity in miniature. Small. Clumsy. Curious. And sooner or later, everything around us ends up broken. The monk whispered, unless we learn to adapt to you. Elias smiled warmly. Now you're catching on. For a moment, the chamber was still. The cadet's eyes shifted from fear to grim respect. Even the warlord, seething, dared not strike. Elias straightened, kitten cradled in his arms. You wanted spectacle. A monster to awe your people. Instead, you got the truth. We don't need dragons. We are the species that breeds them, tells stories about them, and eventually slays them. We don't live in fear of monsters. We learn from them, then outgrow them. His gaze swept the chamber, meeting every pair of alien eyes. And that's what should terrify you most. Because we've only just started. The monk exhaled slowly, voice heavy with realization. The galaxy is not ready for you. Elias gave a polite bow, the kitten yawning in his arms. Then you'd better get ready quickly. The chamber door opened, light spilling in from the corridors. Rumors already carried farther than any fleet could travel. By dawn, every council, every commander, every corner of the galaxy would know, humans had walked into the heart of the academy, brought no dragon, and still left the galaxy shaken. Elias paused at the threshold. His voice was calm, almost conversational. You wanted a dragon. What you got was a kitten. Be grateful for that. He turned, eyes gleaming. Because on Earth, even our kittens grow into predators. The door shut behind him. Silence ruled the chamber, broken only by the kitten's faint purr echoing in memory.